This lady swore and vowed never to allow any man into her life, choosing to remain single for the rest of her days. Her reasons will make you cry. Grab your popcorn and let's dive in. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today, we're discussing a captivating new Nigerian movie that's more than just entertainment. It's packed with valuable lessons you won't want to miss. So, let's get into it. The movie begins with a young woman named Glory, who calls her house and asks someone to warm the stew and prepare rice for her. When she arrives home, her mother praises her for her hard work. Glory smiles and then goes to freshen up. The next day at the office, while Glory is working on her system, a young man named Richard approaches his boss to ask where to drop an important document. However, Glory responds with rudeness and insults, treating him with complete disrespect. Frustrated, Richard finally speaks his mind, confronting her about the way she mistreats every male in the company, regardless of their age or status. Unable to tolerate her behavior any longer, he resigns. Instead of feeling remorseful, Glory calls him names and takes the document from him, continuing her work as if nothing happened. That same day, two young men, Tony and Josh, find themselves in a desperate situation. Tony rushes into their room, waking Josh, who is startled to see his friend locking the door. Their landlord, whom they have been owing rent for a year, is outside, knocking persistently. They remain quiet until he leaves, then start blaming each other for their financial struggles. Josh suggests they go out to hustle for money to settle their debt, as their landlord will not stop coming until he gets paid. They both agree to the plan. Later that day, Richard calls his mother and complains about how he was treated at work, which led to his resignation. His mother tries to get more details, but he abruptly ends the call. Worried, she goes to her room, feeling unsettled. That night, Glory's mother confronts her about the way she mistreats men in the company. She warns Glory that if she continues this way, no man will be willing to work there. Determined to change her daughter's mindset, she decides to find someone for her on her own. Then, she leaves. The next morning at the dining table, Glory and her mother are having breakfast, excited about the upcoming celebration of her mother's birthday. Glory asks her mother to make a special request, promising to fulfill it as a birthday gift. Her mother then expresses her wish to meet Glory's man on her birthday. At that moment, Glory's mood changes completely. When her mother tries to understand why she has such strong hatred towards men, Glory remains silent, avoiding the conversation. The moment, which was supposed to be joyful, turns cold. But do people like Glory really exist? Those who hate men with such passion? Let's continue to see how the story unfolds. The next day at the office, Glory's friend Amaka comes to see her after a long time. They exchange pleasantries, and Amaka excitedly reveals her engagement ring. Glory is genuinely happy for her and immediately calls for a celebration. Early the next morning, after Glory's mother gives instructions to Joy about what to prepare for the day, Amaka arrives. Glory's mother is happy for Amaka and wishes her daughter would also find someone. Amaka then goes to her room. Later that day, while Glory's mother is in the living room, Amaka joins her. They start discussing Glory, and her mother asks why Glory hates men so much. She wonders if it has something to do with their childhood friendship, or if perhaps Glory is interested in women instead. Amaka, smiling, reassures her that Glory is not into women. However, she admits she doesn't know the real reason behind Glory's hatred toward men. She advises Glory's mother to give her some time. When asked about her own relationship, Amaka blushes, clearly happy. One day, while Josh and Tony are eating bread and drinking water, using the little money they earned from washing cars, Tony receives a call from his aunt in the village. She delivers heartbreaking news. His mother has just passed away. Devastated, Tony breaks down in tears. Without hesitation, he packs his things, preparing to leave for the village immediately. However, he worries about how Josh will manage to pay their rent. Josh tells him not to worry and assures him he will figure something out. He then walks Tony to the bus stop, bidding him farewell. Meanwhile, that same day, as Glory enters the office, she shoots a cold, intimidating look at her gateman, Bayo, scaring him off. He wonders why she behaves this way. Glory then asks her personal assistant, PA, why they haven't replaced the gateman with a female gatewoman. Her PA, however, praises Bayo's dedication and efficiency. But Glory reacts negatively, warning her PA never to make such a suggestion again. Her PA then informs her about her schedule for the day, mentioning an upcoming meeting with new investors and the new applicants for a job vacancy. Glory dismissively tells her PA to send all job applications to her mother, leaving her mother to handle the hiring process. She then takes the documents needed for her investor meeting and leaves. After the meeting, Glory is informed that her mother will not be available to review the job applications. Left with no choice, she instructs her PA to let the first applicant in. Her PA brings in a man who is highly qualified for the position. The moment Glory sees him, she immediately calls her PA aside and scolds her for breaking the company's rule of not hiring men. Even though he is the most suitable candidate for the job, she refuses to consider him. She warns her PA never to repeat such a mistake again or risk losing her job. Glory told Josh that she couldn't employ him because only females were allowed to work in her company. She then asked him to leave, but he refused and took a video of her explaining why she didn't want to hire men. As the situation escalated, she reluctantly complied, reviewed his files, and eventually gave him the job. She then called her PA to guide him on his duties, but secretly vowed to make his experience at the company miserable. Wow, Josh's boldness is truly impressive. I guess the motivation to pay his rent gave him the courage. Well done, Josh. That night, Glory expressed to her mother how furious she was about hiring a male employee. However, her mother reminded her that the company was not exclusively for women and that refusing to hire men could ruin the business if the news got out. Knowing her daughter well, she also suspected that Glory would make things difficult for Josh. Since the conversation wasn't going in her favor, Glory went to bed, while Josh, in his room, kept wondering why she was so opposed to hiring men before eventually falling asleep. The next day at the office, Josh accidentally bumped into Glory. He immediately apologized, but she insulted him, issued a serious warning, and made it clear how much she despised him. When her PA came in to remind her of an upcoming meeting, she yelled at her and sent her out. Afterward, as Glory walked past her staff, she gave them all an intimidating look. Josh, puzzled by her behavior, asked his colleagues why she acted that way, but no one had a clear answer. Could it be that she was heartbroken in the past? Well, only time will tell. Later that evening, Amaka was on a call with Glory, where she reported her frustrations about Josh. However, Amaka, much like Glory's mother, pointed out that she admired Josh's determination. Finding no support for her viewpoint, Glory ended the call, using sleep as an excuse. The following day at work, Josh submitted documents regarding a newly supervised site and requested to speak with Glory. She allowed him to, and he started by apologizing for how he initially approached the job and expressed his desire to build a good working relationship with her. However, she dismissed him coldly, called him names, and ignored his words. During lunch break, Josh spoke with Anika, sharing his experience with their boss. He described how rude and arrogant Glory was. Nika then explained that Glory's mother used to be in charge of the company before handing it over to her daughter. She advised Josh to keep his distance, but since they had to work together, it wouldn't be easy. They quickly wrapped up their meal and returned to work. Later that day, Glory called for a meeting where she scolded Josh for making a mistake by selling company property below its actual value. She insulted him and ordered him to fix the issue immediately, as the property was worth much more. Frustrated, she dismissed the meeting. That evening, Glory complained to her mother about Josh's mistake, but her mother reminded her that everyone makes errors. Since Glory had more experience, her mother urged her to guide Josh rather than burden him with unnecessary struggles. Glory, still furious, continued insulting Josh, but when her mother raised her voice, she reluctantly agreed to fix the issue before going to her room. The next day at the office, Josh updated Aneka on his efforts to recover the lost deal. Neka was surprised that Glory didn't intervene, as she could have resolved the problem instantly. This revelation made Josh realize that Glory deliberately made things difficult for him. Shortly after, Glory summoned him to her office, where he confidently explained his progress. However, she bluntly told him not to bother, as she had already fixed it herself. Before sending him out, she issued another warning. The following day, Nika informed Glory that she needed a week off due to health issues. Glory, showing rare concern, granted her the leave. She then called Josh and informed him that he would accompany her to the construction site to oversee the project's progress. At the site, while Josh was discussing some necessary adjustments, Glory accidentally stepped on a rusty nail. Without hesitation, Josh carried her to the hospital for treatment. That night, he even took her home, and though the maid collected her things from him, she gave him an intimidating look that made him leave immediately. However, before he could go, he encountered Glory's mother, who warmly greeted and thanked him. He returned the greeting and left, aware of how his boss would react. That evening, Amaka observed Glory's reaction and told her that Josh was a genuinely good person. She pointed out that he had taken her to the hospital, stayed with her, and even ensured she got home safely, actions that spoke volumes about his character. However, Glory dismissed the conversation. Meanwhile, her mother announced that she would take over company affairs until Glory fully recovered. They had a pleasant time together as the day ended. The next morning at the office, everyone was surprised to see Glory's mother. She addressed the employees, commended them for their hard work, and explained that Glory had a minor accident, so she would be in charge until her daughter recovered. She once again appreciated Josh's help, and the team resumed work. Later, during a meeting, Glory's mother shared exciting news with Josh. He had been personally requested by a referred client for a new business deal. She handed him the necessary documents and then, out of curiosity, asked about his marital status. Josh admitted that he was still single due to financial instability. He was surprised when Glory's mother subtly hinted that Glory liked him. That evening, while Glory was in the living room, her mother came in exhausted. After a brief chat, her mother reminded her about introducing a man on her birthday. Glory found this difficult, but was eventually convinced to go on a date, though only within their house due to her injured leg. A few days later, Glory went on a date with a man, and while the conversation was initially smooth, she ruined it by indirectly calling him jobless. Offended, the man left. That night, her mother scolded her for being rude and emphasized that she was only trying to help. However, Glory remained adamant about staying single. Her mother firmly rejected that notion, reminding her that if she hadn't married, Glory wouldn't exist. This led Glory to finally open up. She hated men because of her father. She painfully recalled how he treated her mother, constantly raising his hands against her every night. As a child, she had hoped her mother would take her far away from him, but instead, she stayed with the man she considered a monster. This revelation brought both mother and daughter to tears. Her mother then explained her side of the story. She stayed because her uncle had arranged the marriage, and when she gave birth to Glory, she held on to hope for a better future. She endured everything for Glory's sake. She apologized to her daughter, assuring her that not all men were the same. She encouraged Glory to open herself to love instead of dwelling on past pain. In that emotional moment, they consoled each other, seemingly bringing closure to the matter. But the big question remains. Will Glory finally be open to love, or will she continue holding on to her past pain? Let's see how the story unfolds. The next day at the office, Glory's mother once again told Josh that she liked him when he came in, and he appreciated her kind words. She encouraged him to feel comfortable around her, and even offered him a ride, but he politely declined, explaining that he had someone to see. After that, he left. When Josh got home, he shared the conversation with his friend over the phone. His friend advised him to take advantage of the situation, but Josh ignored him, choosing instead to enjoy their conversation. But what do you think Josh should do in this kind of situation? Is he making the right or wrong decision? Leave a comment as we follow the story to the end. One day, Glory was all set for work, and her mother was happy to see her back in her routine. She wished her well before she left. When Glory arrived at the office, she greeted Puis, the gateman, and even asked about his well-being. She also apologized for how she had treated him in the past. Puis, surprised but touched, assured her that he had forgiven her a long time ago. She then walked into the office, where her staff warmly greeted and welcomed her with excitement. Shortly after, she called for Josh to see her immediately. For the first time, they had a pleasant conversation without her acting bossy. Glory sincerely apologized to Josh and thanked him for everything he had done for her. She also agreed to build a good working relationship with him. They continued their conversation, enjoying each other's company before Josh was dismissed to resume work. That night, when Glory got home, her friend Amaka had prepared dinner. Amaka was thrilled that Glory was finally opening up. After freshening up, Glory joined her friend, and they had a heartfelt conversation. She shared how peaceful she felt inside. They continued talking about different things as the night went by. The next day at the office, Glory went to the restaurant to join Josh for lunch, which surprised him. She asked him to tell her more about himself, and they had a long, engaging conversation. Josh even complimented her smile, making her blush. They had fun together before heading home, with Glory insisting on dropping him off. The next morning at the dining table, Glory felt a little off but went to work regardless. Meanwhile, her mother asked Joy, the maid, to prepare egusi soup. At the building site, Glory suddenly felt an urgent need to use the restroom. Since it was a pressing situation and there was no available facility nearby, Josh had to find a discreet corner for her to relieve herself. As they were about to leave, Glory realized she had misplaced her car keys. They searched everywhere but couldn't find them. With her permission, Josh checked her bag, and there the keys were. They then left. On their way home, Glory felt pressed again, so she stopped by the roadside to relieve herself once more. It was quite a funny, yet embarrassing moment, although Glory didn't seem to mind. She eventually took an Uber home while Josh waited for the driver to come pick up the car since she was too exhausted to drive. Because it was already late, Josh decided to spend the night at her place while waiting for the driver. When they arrived home, Glory's mother welcomed them. Glory then showed Josh to the guest room, thanking him and telling him to call her by her first name. As she left, Josh began reflecting on how he had met Glory and how things had changed between them. Later, Glory brought food to Josh, only to find that he had taken off his shirt. Although he didn't seem to mind, his appearance caught her attention, and she quickly left. However, when she went to her room, she couldn't stop thinking about him, replaying his image in her mind as she enjoyed her night. The next day at the office, after Josh handed Glory a document from one of their clients, she joined him for lunch again, and they had a great time together, growing even more comfortable with each other. On this particular day, Glory brought a cake home for her mother, as her birthday was approaching. During their conversation, she asked her mother what she thought about Josh. Her mother told her that she liked Josh a lot and even thought he was a great match for Glory. This took Glory by surprise, making her wonder what was going on. They both laughed about it, and her mother insisted that she should tell Josh how she felt about him. But Glory refused, saying that he had to be the one to confess first. They then continued enjoying their time together. The next day at the office, during a meeting with Josh and her PA, Josh seemed completely distracted. Glory noticed and decided to call off the meeting. Concerned, she asked if he was okay. That's when Josh finally expressed his feelings, confessing that he loved her. He added that even if it cost him his job, he didn't mind. Glory walked closer to him and, without hesitation, told him to kiss her. He did, and in that moment, everything changed. This story teaches us the importance of letting go of past hurts and bitterness. Holding on to pain can cloud our perception, making us believe that all people are the same. But we must remember that not all men or women are alike. We shouldn't judge everyone based on past experiences, because good people still exist. It's also essential to open up to those we trust, people who have shown strength and wisdom through their own experiences. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more exciting updates on the latest Nigerian movies. See you next time.